Welcome to day two. I appreciate day one was very conceptual. So don't worry, it's coming. Like the actual how does this look in my business? How does this look in my growth plan is coming. I just wanted to give you the basic foundational pieces so you can look at it slightly differently and have that shift early instead of having that shift later in your business when you look around and you're like, how did I create all this mess? Which can happen. It definitely happened to me. I found myself in a lot of mess quite early on, very early on. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. All these clients are leaving. I have no idea why. Well, I know now why they were leaving. So I'm going to share with you how to avoid that, basically. So I'm really glad I could really massively fall on my face so I could share it with you guys. I hope that's useful for you. All right, let's get started. So everyone's in, I think. Okay, so redid my ideal client. Fantastic. Being intentional. This is really important. Having the confidence to create an expensive offer, saving time by selling to one person for more money. This is so good. So as I was thinking about what to create for this, I'm not going to do a presentation today because it stressed me out, to be honest, having to do it. There were too many tabs open. Literally, I was like, no, I'm not doing that today. So what we're going to do today is like anchor in to the stuff that you're going to want to know next. Like, okay, I get the big picture stuff. I get the why I should be doing this, but literally what does that look like for me in my business? Because that for me is always the question whenever I'm working with anyone, or to be honest, like whenever I'm following anyone, whenever I'm interested and I'm like, oh, I like what they're saying, I wonder what that's going to look like for me. And for me, that's always the gap. And that's always the gap that people really don't hit. There's a lot of training on entrepreneurship and like very little of it resonates with me. For that reason, I'm like, yeah, it's great for you, but I'm completely different to you. So don't give me a bunch of spreadsheets. I'll just be like, whatever. I just won't do it. So I'm going to talk about that today. So you redid your ideal client. You're going to sell more value to fewer people. This is where we want to get to. So I want to caveat this as well, because this is where it gets super interesting, is if you don't know what you're building, and this again sounds super logical, but it's not logical. Like it's not common sense to most people. But if you don't know what you're building, how on earth do you know what the first brick is? It's kind of like Lego. Does anyone play with Lego or do any messing around with Lego with their kids? Oh my goodness, those instruction booklets. If they didn't have an instruction booklet, they were just like, here's a big bowl of Lego, have fun. You would create some odd looking things, maybe. Depends what you're like. Having the confidence to create an expensive offer. Does a hot, warm, cold lead sales process still relevant? Well, it is. It's definitely relevant. So what I'm going to do is, what would be the most interesting thing to talk about? Because I could just talk about a whole range of things. What's the thing that you want to know next? Like when you had yesterday and you were like, okay, this is interesting. Is that it? Is like, how do I qualify my clients? How do I make sure they're a fit? Would that be interesting? Yeah. Is that a yes? Okay. So kind of going back on that concept from day one, it's like, you have to decide what you're building first. But how do we know what we're building first? Doesn't that seem completely flipped around? You're like, oh, I'll just start and it will just take me wherever I want to go. And this is a massive mistake that most businesses make. And to be honest, people make generally in their lives. That's why coaching is it's so foundational to creating anything that you want to create. You have to start from the end. Otherwise, you don't know how to build it. So what we do in business is like, okay, I have a vague idea. I have a vague idea of this. I have a vague idea of that. I'm going to do a ton of market research. I'm going to find out what I should do. And that for me is just the ultimate, like giving up your power in business to other people's kind of crappy opinions, basically. I'm just saying it as I think it. Like, I don't want to build my business on a set of crappy opinions that have been given to me from someone that has done something, but I don't like the way they've done it. So if you're like smart enough to realize that and be like, oh, I get it, it's completely up to me. No one else is going to give me permission or validation or external whatever, like a pat on the head. I'm not going to get that, even though I really, really want it. I really want approval for my business. Isn't it lovely and shiny? And I was completely like that in the beginning. I was like so desperate for approval from everyone, essentially, so that they'd think I was doing really well. Oh, how's your business going? Oh, so well. Then secretly being like, I've not made any money. Like zero, like less than zero, making zero money, like negative money. How can I say that it's going well? I feel like a massive imposter and a fraudster, actually. And people don't tell you that because it's not pretty. But everyone experiences it. This is what I've realized. And your clients are experiencing it as well. So thinking from that perspective, thinking that you have to know what you're building before you build, you just get to decide. And this is where it's really hard. And this is where we want someone to tell us what to do. And so when my clients are like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know. What do you think? Like, what do you want to do? And it really like breaks their brain a bit because they're like, I don't know what I'm allowed. I could just do whatever I want. I'm like, yeah, you can just do whatever you want. It's a playground. It's basically Lego fun time. Just build whatever you want. You want to build some kind of bizarre scarecrow with, I don't know, just build it. But you have to know first. So then when you do know that, you can just ask better questions about it. You can just be like, fine, that's what I'm building for now, at least. It's probably going to change in a year. But at least I know what I'm building. But you have to be, if you do want actually to make money, you have to be specific. And this is where it's really hard because people don't like to deal with specifics. They like to talk about markets and general vague terms that no one really understands. And it sounds really good on paper, but then when I actually ask them what it means, they just don't know because they've been taught this language of vagueness. Because no one knows what it means and everyone's pretending that they do because they don't want to look dumb. Like, oh, I've got an MBA. I'm like, amazing. Tell me what your business is. They're like, watch a video. I'm like, no, tell me in your words. And when they can't, it's because they don't know. And this isn't a bad thing. It's not to call people out. It's just to be like, if you're serious about making money and you want a big thing and you want a future that delivers all the things that you want just for you, not for anyone else, just you as in this moment, you're like, do you know what? I'd love to lay on a beach for like 4 months of the year and then do nothing and have people send me money. That would be my ideal scenario. If that is your ideal scenario, then you just reverse engineer, be like, great, how could I make that happen? Because we make it so complicated in our heads. It's really not complicated. It's just we're not being clear enough about it because we don't know. And in my personal experience, it's because we haven't been taught how to think like that. And when you're taught to think differently about it, you just make easier decisions and it feels way easier. So to give you an example for today, what have I done this morning? I took my cat to the vet, got up, had the children, got them to school, played with Lego, drank some coffee, sort of pootled around a bit, listened to some music, spoke to my dog. That's about it. It's kind of why I didn't send the emails. I didn't bother with the replay. I was just like pootling around in my own little world. But when you try and like when you try and like downloading someone else's information into your business, like future, you're following their download. And it doesn't make any sense for you because you're like, this feels really odd and I don't like it and I don't know why, but I'm going to do it because I've been told that to be successful I have to make this money and I'm so attached to this money And this being the right way, that I'm so scared of losing it that it freaks me out and it sends me into massive stress overdrive all the time. Any of this sounding familiar? So that was my first 3 years of business, was just massive stress overdrive, completely triggered by everything, triggered by my clients, triggered by them not getting results, really obsessing over them getting results, being completely tied to their result, being my result. And that's why entrepreneurs think that this is really, really hard. And they're like, oh, this is just awful. I have to give up, because it doesn't work. It has to be the market. Oh, the market don't buy. This is a nightmare. And it's not. You're literally making it your own nightmare, because you're focusing on things that you don't want to happen, like losing money, losing clients, being stressed out, and all of that just comes to you because you're focusing on it. It sounds ridiculously weird and simple, but when you actually think 100 times bigger, if you actually sit down and you're like, what do I actually want? Let's just ignore, like, for a second, let's put big noise cancelling headphones on and stop listening to everyone and their dog telling me what they want my business to be for them, because they do. People got a ton of opinions. They're like, oh, you should do this. But like, no thanks. People love to just tell you the way to do it. They don't know, so stop listening to them. If I have to add a client every week, then how many leads do I need? So I guess that depends on how much money you want to make. Okay, so that all being said, it's really important to focus in on you first. And what I've realized through really difficult things and really like triggering and not terrible, but sort of so dramatic and so stressful on me and my body and kind of my family and myself, is that when you're on the wrong path, i.e. someone else's path that they've laid down, whether it's a book, a podcast, or whatever, when you start on that path and you go further down and further down and further down, and you haven't created it yourself, things go wrong immediately. They all just crumble. So it has to come from you, because you're the originator of it. Don't listen. It doesn't matter what people say about sales and marketing and strategy, and I'm an expert in this, I'm an expert in this. They're not. They really are not. It has to originate from you and what you want and what makes you really happy. Because the happier you are, the more fun it is. The more fun it is, the better results your clients get. It's a really, really easy, kind of lovely symmetry. But I think sorry, just reading the questions. But the reason we make it so hard is just we've been told it's hard. Like, there is this ongoing narrative that everyone's like, oh, risky, don't start a business, that's terrible. Don't you know 9 out of 10 businesses fail? You're like, oh, great, thanks for the vote of confidence. Love that. On. Next. So just don't listen to them, because they really just don't, honestly, they just don't have a clue. So my advice in terms of how I've built my own thing, whatever that's going to be in like the long term, is just choose people that speak common sense to you. It's going to be different for everyone. Everyone's got an opinion on what common sense is, just because of the way that they've been brought up, the way that they've been programmed, and the way that their parents spoke to them. It's like, oh no, having a business is really, really risky. Work is really hard. Don't you want to go on holiday? Why are you working on a Sunday, weirdo? You're like, oh, well, I would just do this for free because I really enjoy it. What are you doing in your life that you would just do because you really, really enjoy it and not get paid money and still think of yourself as a success? People just don't like it because they're like, oh, I guess I need to look at my own stuff then, because I'm really unhappy in my thing over here. So just don't let it, just honestly, just brush it off. Just let it like wash over you. It's not your problem. So it's not a problem. None of this is a problem. None of like making money, setting goals, none of it is problematic. It's all just like sequencing of events. it's all just decide something. If it doesn't work out, whatever, you tried it, you just move on to the next thing that takes your fancy, quite literally. Oh, this looks quite interesting. This takes my fancy. Might just have a little look in here. Has anyone read the book? I haven't actually read it, but someone told me about it. So I'm just going to paraphrase that. Something about slipstream, like you basically find someone who is going where you want to go in a way that you want, and you just like get on the train and then you just see where it takes you. So in my experience, that has been the quickest way that I've learned all the things that I've learned. Just being like, I really like that person over there and what they're saying about this thing. So I'm just going to get on the train for a bit, see kind of how it goes. And then as soon as I don't like it, I'm off the train. Let's get the next one. But people don't have that mentality. They're like, no, I declared to the universe that this was going to happen this way. So it has to happen the exact way that I've prescribed it. And if anything goes wrong, I'm going to completely freak out. And it's awful. Just don't do it to yourself because it feels really bad as well. Okay, so couldn't see me. If I have to add a client every week, then how many leads do I need? Personal goal sheet. Tell me how much money you want to make, Naresh. Just pop it in the chat or unmute yourself.
Yeah, so my work is to talk to business owners and probably investment bankers all over the world to invest in India. So we are looking at corporates who want to set up their business in India. So that's the challenge.
But how much money do you want to make?
So the minimum investment that we are looking at is $10 million.
Okay. So is the goal $10 million?
Yeah, if they want to enter India, that's our client.
And so your client, their minimum investment to invest in India is $10 million, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the starting point.
Okay. And how much money do you want to make as like your like entity, your business entity?
We make 30% of that.
Okay, so what is like over what timeline?
Not me, but
okay,
but our organization makes 30% of
30% of that. What's your individual one, money wise?
So I would make probably 5% of that.
No, still haven't answered my question. I'm going to ask it again. How much money do you personally want to make over what time period? Can you tell me that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was thinking at $1 million a year.
Okay, awesome. So $1 million per year for Naresh. Is that take home or is that total revenue? NareshHoldings.com.
Yeah, that's take home.
Take home. Okay. Do you see what I mean? It's a very different thought.
Yeah.
You're tying it to the wrong thing. So the clearer you are on that, like NareshHoldings.com, me personally, in my bank, I want to see $1 million. Literally, I want $1 million in that bank account. Because then when you know that, then everything comes from that. It's like, great. So the question is just like, cool, how much value do I want to create? Who do I want to create it for? And how can I divert it to my bank? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just need to find the right process, the right vehicle for that to come in that way. Yeah. So then it's like, how many clients would that be, do you think? So that would be, can't do the maths in my head, but.
Yeah, probably at least 10 clients in a year to start with.
Great.
Yeah, because you don't get those kind of clients like every month. There's a big lead time to get a client.
Yeah, so you factor in all these things. You're like, great, how long does it take? So do you see this is the flow? You have to start from the top instead of from the bottom. Because money flows down instead of flowing up from the bottom. So this is the key learning. It's like, great, I just need to imagine you've got a big, I mean, I've literally lost words. Like a big
Funnel.
Yeah, like a funnel, but like in the real, like a physical thing. One of those things that you put into oil, like an olive oil thing. Yeah. So you put that into, and then the oil is pouring, what's happening in your businesses, or my experience of the business is like, I was trying to like flick tiny little drops of oil into the jar instead of catching it from above. And that's why we got it completely flipped around. So it doesn't matter how big your goal is. And everyone's like, always dream big, go for a big goal. It's amazing. You're going to get there. It's actually not, that's not the reason to do it. The reason to do it is otherwise you literally cannot figure out how to funnel the money into your entity, into your bank. And it comes from other people. It doesn't come from just like looking around on Facebook and having random conversations with. It comes from a strategy that is well thought out, well planned, and actually clear. So if we just remember that and just ask the right questions, be like, great, how much money do I want in my bank? How often do I want it? Who are the best people that I really like to hang out with? And just go and find more of those people to hang out with. What if it could literally be as simple as that?
Yeah. I mean, mainly we are talking about the target group.
The what, sorry?
The target group, the TG.
Okay, so the target group so your market.
Yeah, I mean, so
Oh,
if I
the
look at,
smaller, like the 10 people, the 10 clients.
yeah, so if I look at my markets, I concentrate in US, UK, Australia, and the Middle East.
Yeah.
So that's what I concentrate. Again, in these markets, probably in US it is San Francisco, New York, that's
Okay.
where Texas and on all.
Cool.
And UK it is more or less London and probably Edinburgh. That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So it's like there's a couple of different ways of doing it. You can be super targeted and like, bing, that's my person, and just have one conversation and sign that person, bang, you get the money because you know them so well, or you have a connection with them or a network. You can be like super, super targeted with an arrow, or you can just cast a massive net and be like, let's see what fish this brings in. And then you pick your fish as they come in. So they're two different strategies. And one is requiring more work, way more work for you to get clearer. You have to be so clear on who that person is that when they cross your path, you're like, oh my goodness, I know I can help that person. They're my ideal client. I'm going to go ask them if they want some help. And with the wide net strategy, you're like, I'm just going to throw loads of stuff out there. So this is what people are doing on social media, which is why it's not working very well for them. They're like, I'm going to post a bunch of stuff, but they're not clear enough. They don't have the targeted content clear. So they're like throwing out a huge wide net with a whole array of different messages, and no one knows what the hell they're talking about. And I was doing that for 2 years for sure. And people would come across me and be like, great, but what do I get? And I was like, I don't really know, but maybe I could help you. I'm not really sure. I don't know what I would do. Like the whole thing is just very, very vague, and it gives you, and it makes it so much harder when you're vague. Anything that makes you vague in your business is an absolute sales killer. People are just like, no, this sounds like absolute nonsense. Okay, any other questions? So thinking about like what would be useful, does someone want to get coached on something? Do you have a question for me? Is there something that you're like noodling in your head thinking, right, I've got this situation and I wonder how to approach it? Anything coming up like that? Yeah, Prem.
So I guess what I've been, because there's a couple of clients that I want to approach, and what I'm holding back on is creating those packages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'll leave it as vague as that, actually. I think packages and how to frame those products and
cool.
Those fair points.
So how much money do you want to make individually? Like over what time period do you think?
That's a really embarrassing question. I would say,
Don't be embarrassed.
I'd say, I would think about 10 grand a month. and then maybe there's lack of confidence, but then I could expand that quite easily. But I think
Yeah.
the monthly.
So how much, but starting from the like desire point of view of like, what do you actually want? If money were no like obstacle, I did like dream completely crazy, up in the air clouds.
Okay.
Money.
I'll say it can go pretty high because I'm having these discussions with a couple of clients. Someone offered me 150 a month
Yeah.
to look after their site. So let's go
Okay,
with that for now.
cool. So what would so over a year, what would that look like? How much would that be?
So 1.5, just over 1.5 million.
Okay, cool. So why did you have you made them an offer to do something?
No. So what I'm doing is so this particular person there's two people actually. One's a partnership that's been offered to me, and the other one is a friend. And I don't want to, I love him too much. It's 30 years friendship that I don't want to put down but that I don't, it's hard to make friends, isn't it? And like you said at the last session, we're not here just to make money. We're here to give something back, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I'm
What
helping
if you
him
can
out.
have both? You think that you can have one or the other?
Well, he's a cheeky bugger. He's tried to have a go at me a few times at the meetings, and I'm able to put him in his place because I'm saying, hey, number one, I'm your friend. Number two, I'm not making any money out of you. So
why not? Why wouldn't you want to make money out of your friend who is fun to work with and puts you in his place? Like, why can't you have both? There's something in your brain that's like,
yeah, that's
it has to be
interesting.
one or the other.
I mean, for a start, the way like he's I think we would have fallen out already, to be honest with you, with those conversations that we've had. He's fallen
Yeah,
out
because he's
because of
not
the
paying
other
you any
friends I made.
money.
No, he's fallen out with other people and he's paid them very good money.
Fall out with him then.
No, like I said.
So that's really interesting. So you just get to decide, am I prepared to fall out with him, to work with him, or would I rather keep him close as a dear friend? And you just get to make that choice. Yeah, great. Yeah. So the other one, why haven't you asked them just what they want?
I'm working on that, I guess. The other one's a partnership where they'd love me to just give them regular work. Just they'll take care of the whole infrastructure, even liaise with the clients, and I'm going more towards that direction actually. I probably will have another conversation. I've had a couple of conversations with them, and they were talking exactly the same figure.
Right. What are you going to do?
That's why I'm sitting here. I'm just wondering about the packages and I'm trying to get more clarity in my mind. Like I say to people, I don't build websites. I'll take your kids to private school, and I'll take your kids to.
So your chauffeur
you go on holidays. No. I mean, I'm making you more money.
Oh, okay.
That's
why don't you just ask them what they would like you to do?
I think it's a bit of confusion. So these guys are kind of like in the same industry. So I'll be getting in the leads.
Yeah.
And I'll be providing it straight to them.
Great.
But I wouldn't say they're my client. They're not my client avatar.
Doesn't matter. Literally throw it up, put it in the bin today. No one cares. Just like your client avatar, don't be attached to your client avatar. It just doesn't mean anything. So if it's the option of like, how do I make the light's really, I hope it's not too bright. If it's the option of making money or like sticking to the original plan, do not stick to the original plan. Throw the original plan out the window because it's not making you money. It's keeping you broke and it's keeping you making decisions that aren't serving your business or you. Does that make sense? Sorry, I just get on my like soapbox about this.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right, but I was still wondering about making packages, creating packages or offering, as you're saying, offering the.
Just ask them what they want, and then give it to them, and then tell other people that you did an amazing job. Yeah, your package will evolve when you do that. But what we do is we're so tied to the thing we decided 6 months ago, and then we've changed in 6 months. And then we wonder why no one's buying what we're selling. Because we're not like matched to it anymore. And then we're like, oh, this is a pain in the ass. Why is everyone so annoying? Why are they all cancelling their contracts or leaving or saying that they don't like it? It's because it was in the past. You have to operate from today with what does your client want today, and then give it to them today. That's how, like, you want to work in real time. Most businesses don't work in real time, which is why they're not making any money. They're like stuck in 10 years ago strategic planning, and they're like, well, we wonder why this business is tanking. It's like, oh, I wonder why, because you're not giving people what they want today. And you annoyed a lot of your clients by changing and adding too many things and then having terrible customer service. So they all left and you're making no money.
Okay, yeah, yeah, thanks for that. But yeah, okay, great, cheers.
Sorry.
Really.
Like,
okay.
Thanks for that. Sort of rip everything up again. Great. But this is so interesting, and it's literally the like slightly brain-breaking conundrum of business, is because we do want to know how it looks so much, and we care so much. We're like, no, it has to look a certain way, and it's got to be like this, or it's got to be like that. The minute you just let all of that go is the minute it becomes really easy and really fun, and you make tons of money on top. It's like the icing on the cake. You just get to do the stuff you love because it's what you naturally like, and people pay you tons of money for it. Like, this is the dream world. What's happened? It's because you listened to what you wanted instead of listening to what someone else told you to want. So why don't we just forget it? Just be like, great, let's just listen to what we want. It sounds ridiculously simple, but no one really does this, because it's all very serious and po-faced and sort of, business got to be serious. So like, my advice is literally just go get some Lego, play with the Lego and be like, oh, maybe I could just make this thing, or I could make that thing, or this might be cool. I don't know. I had an idea in the vets today when I was taking my cat for her operation. It's like, oh, maybe there's a market for cat crystals. I 100% guarantee you there is a massive market for cat crystals. I bet if you Google this now, you'll find 100 companies in some like whimsical place in the world selling crystals for your cat's healing. I promise you, there are markets everywhere, and they're so bizarre because people like really bizarre things. So like, don't be limited by someone else's boring thinking, essentially. For hamsters. Hamster crystals. This is where innovation really gets super fun and interesting. It's like the stuff that you are trying to hide from people because you're like, I can't say this here because they'll think I'm completely batshit crazy. Why do you think all the really successful entrepreneurs are really super weird people? Like they hide, they don't speak to people, they live in like mountaintops and do really odd things. It's because there's all this like creative process going on all the time that does like require a certain level of focus and kind of strangeness actually in your brain from what everyone else is doing. So if you're prepared to be like completely embrace your weirdness, whatever particular flavor of weirdness you have, you're going to make so much more money, because I promise you there are so many other similarly minded people who hear the word hamster crystals. They're like, oh God, my hamster would love a crystal. I'm obsessed. And then they tell all of their hamster crystal loving friends about you. And suddenly you've got this massive business delighting one very particular person. So I promise you, there are markets everywhere. It's just we're not taught to think in that way. So you have to start with the person first. And I think that's where all the kind of business theory really goes wrong, because they're like, let's start with the structure. Let's start with the mission. And they completely got it flipped. They wouldn't have to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on advertising in creative industries if they thought differently. That's why creative industries are going to be so important for the economy. And that's why we need to support creativity in business as much as possible. Because the more you support the people who've got really interesting ideas about stuff and are thinking in the future, the more money you're going to make in the future and now, today. Okay, any other questions? Where are we at? So, oh, Naresh, you asked, the hot, warm, cold lead sales process still relevant? Yeah, it is still relevant. So especially with expensive things, the way that people buy them is really different, I would say, because it is really relationship driven. So I don't know if you can have, think of an example where you needed something and you were thinking of buying something. Have you had this recently? And you're like, oh, I could ask that person. Oh, I don't really like them. Or, oh, I could get it off that person. And you kind of go through this mental Rolodex. Does that make sense? Of like who you're going to buy it from. So your customers are doing this all the time, but it's brands. And one tiny like inkling of shoddy customer service, not treating your customers well, not respecting and being really amazing to your clients, not being cool with your clients, not giving them what they want, changing stuff for the sake of money, your loyal fan base is immediately out. They're like, no, I don't like this anymore. And you've lost like a really solid fan base. So I learned this very recently. If you like, you want to make a lot of money, you delight, like extraordinarily delight one person to the degree that they're like, they literally can't stop talking about you. It's the thing on their mind all the time. They're like, oh, I can't believe, like, I went to the hairdressers. Not only did they give me a hot scalp towel massage and a free cappuccino and a foot rub, and then asked me about my dog, whose name she remembered. She also like said that she would do my nails for free next time because I'm such an amazing customer. Yeah.
So like the client says that, yeah, Naresh, we are looking at investing in this year.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave such a big, window. Yeah, we are looking at in this year.
Uh-huh.
And then I keep following up and say, we still have 3 months to go, 3.5 months to go in this year. So we'll get back to you. So my thinking is when the other person is really in need or really coming close to wanting to do it,
Mm-hmm.
then obviously he or she is a hot inquiry.
No. So I think it's like you're confusing two different things, because you're thinking like time equals warmth of client. If I just talk to them long enough over a repeated a period of time and say the same thing, at some point they'll submit and be like, oh, go on then.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Doesn't work like that.
Okay.
Then you just become the salesperson that's like kind of an itch that they're just like, I wish they'd go away, but I want to be really nice, so I'm just going to go to them. So what you do instead is you do it on relationship. How do you speed up the relationship in a non-weird way from A to B? It's on the strength of the relationship you have, not the length of time that you've been in contact, if that makes sense.
So I improve the rapport and the relationship. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and the frequency that you're speaking to them.
Or probably I give them information bit by bit. So probably the starting information or let's say the project bite, I give them a summary, then I give them a kind of detail, and then I get into more detail, and then they see, okay, yeah, this seems to be really going in the right direction, and then I just take a pause for some time, let them think over it, and probably after some time
Don't do that. No, don't. When you let them think about it, they just forget essentially.
Okay.
And they didn't make a decision. And then when they are reminded about it, they feel guilty and they don't know what to say. And they're like, don't know what to say now because I've changed my mind or whatever's like something's happened in between. So my theory, I guess, is like, rapid fire connection points, touch
Mhm.
points, as it were. You want them to have the entire sales cycle in a very short period of time.
Okay.
Instead of like stretching out the time frame, bring the time frame down and then just be like, oh, now I know that it's not based on time, it's based on connection. How do I just amp up the connection super fast? Like deliver it straight to your door today, kind of thing. Your buyers love that. They hate wasting time deciding on buying stuff. They
Okay.
love buying things quickly, but it's very rare that people buy it quickly because no one's doing it like this.
So somebody says that I'll come back to you in a week. Is that normal?
It just means that they haven't decided, or they think there's something that they're still not right to them that they need to think about, that you haven't made your case to
Okay.
them in their eyes. They're still not sure. So like my question is like, how do I just make my clients 100% sure? It's a very different question than like, how many times do I follow up?
Yeah, maybe I'm getting stuck there.
Yeah, you are. Because then we're like, oh, we don't want to be a pain, and they're getting annoyed. And it's true. Like it is true. That's why
Yeah.
that's why sales people get a bad name, essentially. Because we've just been taught this like really outdated kind of way of doing it. What if you could just be like, here's what you want, here's your pizza, it's hot, it's like, I got it to you in 5 minutes instead of 30, and I've got extra garlic bread, and here's a £5 too. They'd be like, I'm going to recommend you. You're amazing.
Yeah. That sounds clear.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? Thinking way too small. Probably for, okay, we done the hamsters one. So, what am I thinking about? So, I guess it's just like, picture what you want really, really clearly. Picture who you want to help really, really clearly. And this might be different for, depending on how you learn best, depending on whether you like hearing stuff or whether you like to speak or whether you like how do you like to learn? Just like think about all of those things. Who do I want to help? How do I show up best? Like, how do I learn best and how do I show up best? Because they're usually the same thing. They might be different sometimes. And then you just go find the places where you can do that for those people. So it's kind of like a formula just to make it way more easy. Chances are you're just like hanging out in places where your people are just not your people. And you're thinking, I've got to stick this out. Networking is a little long game. It's going to be like 5 years until it starts bearing fruit. I say, if it's not bearing fruit, if it hasn't borne fruit in 3 months, move on. Really, if you're thinking like this, because it's not you and the offer and the price or anything that needs to change. It's where you are. It's like literally where you're hanging out, where you're spending most of your time and your focus and your energy. That's the thing that you can change really quickly. That's the environment. So you just put yourself in a different like pond, put yourself in, just go to the sea. Have you heard this like red ocean, blue ocean thing about marketing? So it's like everyone's in the same bit of water, thrashing around, trying to get the same clients. And you're just like, I'm just going to go over here where there's no one fishing. See ya, have fun, guys. And then you just go over here, boop, plop yourself into a completely uncompetitive market because nobody is doing what you're doing. There's literally not one competitor. So where do the rich people hang out? I love this. Well, yeah, where do the rich people hang out? I think they hang out in like very low tax areas, tax havens, basically, depending on who your rich client is that wants to spend a lot of money for super smooth, hassle-free experience with you that delivers everything they want and more and is an absolute delight. I think they're just hanging out in places where life is very easy because they've got a really lot of money and they want everything to be easy. That's why the easier you make it for your clients and the easier you make it for you, the more money you will make because your clients love it. We're going uphill. We're like setting ourselves an impossible task by starting at like, oh, ground zero. I've got to like climb and it's really awful and it's so hard. And I'm like, no, get a helicopter and just plonk yourself on the top of the mountain where all the rich people are. Be like, oh, hey guys, I've got something cool. Do you want to buy it? They'll be like, cool, let's go and have some cup of tea and talk about it. And be like, great, it's £5 million. They're like, awesome, I'm going to buy that. We're just thinking about it completely the wrong way around. Go to networking events for property. Yes. So what's your industry? So Prem, you're like holistic business marketing services, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. I don't want to go industry specific, but everyone's saying that there's more money in that. But I remember I was invited to I just found myself surrounded by a lot of property developers in a network meeting I went to, and that's where the idea came to me. I thought, well, and they invited me to one of the events, and that's where I got the idea of, well, I'd be the only website designer, online marketing,
amazing,
a whole room of property developers.
That sounds like a blue ocean right there. And then you're not fighting again, and this is where it's really interesting. You're not fighting with your friends over clients. That's a disaster. You don't want to do that, especially if you've got a peer group that you like hanging out with for fun. You need to have a peer group that you like hanging out with for fun, who also are your clients too. They can be the same group, they can be separate groups, but you don't want to be competing with your really good personal friendship friends for clients. That's really awkward and awful. Unless you're both super chill and you're like, whatever, which is rare. So yeah, that sounds like an amazing blue ocean. I would just definitely go and hang out there a bit more and see just listen to their conversations, just see what they want, see what they need, and just like ask them a ton of questions and be really curious about what they need, and then just be like, oh, I think I might have the perfect offering for you based on exactly what they said that they wanted. Just makes selling is just much more fun like that. Okay, lots to think about. So let me see if I didn't answer any questions. Let me just have a look at my piece of paper. Oh yeah. So another thing you can think about is when you're coming up with your price, and we're going to talk about the actual offer, the package, and what that looks like once we've kind of got this concept in place of like, okay, how do I make sure that actually does offer what they want? Because we're starting with the client, remember, and they've told us what they want. They say, I'm a property developer, for example, I just really want, I don't know a problem that property developers have. What do they want in their lives? More houses? I'm just guessing. I don't know. They'd be like, I really want tons more rich people buying really expensive houses, and I can't find those people. And you can help with that. You just then go away and you're like, okay, how could I do that? What are the results? And like, what are the steps that they would need to do? And I know it sounds really backwards, and I know that it sounds like you want to have the process first, but it's much, much harder and much harder to sell when you're in that dynamic of like, you actually don't know what they want and you don't really know how to get it for them. So once you've done it once, this is a great thing. Now you've got a template for the person that you want to help. You can use the template for other property developers. Be like, look at this awesome job that I did for, what's his name? Maybe Frank needs it too. Why don't you go and tell your friend Frank? So then you just start growing your own little pocket niche with people that you help. And when it comes to the pricing of it, they'll tell you. I mean, they literally will tell you. If you ask them, if you're like, so what would it look like to solve that problem? Like, how much money would it save you? You can literally just ask them the question, they'll tell you. And then you've got an idea in your head of the value they're attaching to it. So you have to find out what it's costing them in time or stress or energy or whatever's happening for them. What is it costing them? Like, what is actually going on with them? And then that gives you an idea of how you anchor your price. If you know that you can help them, but we've already done that work because you've chosen your person really carefully and you know exactly what you're good at. So it won't even be this mental construct of like having to do all these exercises and worksheets and thinking. You won't actually have to think about it. You'll just be like, oh, I can help you with that. You just do blah, blah, blah. And it'll come off the tip of your tongue because you know how to do this. It's just, it's lodged in your brain that there's a problem. So you can't get to the information. So when you're like, oh, I totally know how to do that because that's what I'm really good at. I've figured out that that's what I'm really good at. And I found the person that I really want to help. So now I'm just like, oh, I can totally help with that. That's what I do all day, every day. It's my best favorite thing to do. I can definitely help you. Is this making sense? Everyone's like looking at me like, Any questions? Any questions at all? No. So I want to hear what's for you feels like the biggest what's the biggest thing that could stop you from just deciding to do this, deciding to look at your business like this? What are you still feeling what are you still feeling confused about? Or not, maybe you're not feeling confused at all, which is awesome, in which case my job here is done. Where to find clients? So we work backwards, Vicky. Who's your client?
So my new ideal client
Nice.
is people who've got a decent amount of capital to start their own business, but
Yeah.
they've got their idea, they've got their whatever they're going to create or make or sell.
Yeah.
But they literally have no idea where to go from after that.
Okay.
And very much with like a technical spin on it.
Okay.
So
Cool.
not so much business coach as like setting up their processes, systems.
Okay, fine. Oh, great. So like an operations person.
Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of business do they have? Or does it not really not matter at all?
I don't think that matters too much. But having what you just said about having a niche, then it could matter. I mean, previously I've always worked very much with spiritual, holistic type businesses, things in the wellness industry.
Yeah.
But a recent business coach that I spoke to said, well, that they don't have any money, so don't work with them.
It's so untrue. Just that's a massive lie. They have so much money and they love spending it.
And I thought that, but it really threw me for a bit. So
that's complete nonsense. So this is what's so funny, because everyone has this experience of selling to a specific market and then they're like, no, it's the market was wrong. Those people, they don't spend money. And I'm like, when you hear someone say that, go after that market. You just be like, oh, they just didn't know how to sell. This is amazing. I'm going to go make so much money.
Okay, so I know that sort of industry inside out. Like,
literally stick with what you know. Stick with what feels really easy. And then just think, so they've got decent capital. They want to start. They don't know where to start. and they want to, so what's their ultimate like end goal? Is it, what's their Z?
Have you ever wondered how people make money posting videos online? You actually don't have to have the largest following in order to make the largest paychecks, but you need to make it easier to
So
Totally put me off. Yeah, so their end product they'd have all their systems in place. They'd
Yeah.
be ready to kind of launch. They'd have their website, they'd have their processes, their method of delivery, whatever it is that they're, whether it's a physical product or a
okay. Okay, perfect. So what would they like? And this is where you just get really curious about your business, about your client, and just say, like, well, again, same process. The same process I'm teaching you, you do for your client. So what I'm doing for my clients, you guys who are my clients, because you're here paying me with your time and energy and focus, which is just another way of paying. It's not money, but it is time and focus and dedication. That's still a cost, right? It's still an investment. You just go do the same for your clients. Be like, great, what do you most want? What are you most struggling with? How can I help you the most? What would really delight you and be really cool and fun? Then you give it to them. Yeah. So where do you think they could be hanging out? Like, where do these kind of holistic wellness people hang out?
I don't know, I need to think about that because previously I've done it all with networking. And yes, they tend to not have big budgets, so that's obviously not the place to look.
Well, maybe, I don't know. It's funny how people magically can like magic money out of thin air when they really see something that they really, really want to do.
Yeah.
You would be amazed, actually. So like use your kind of best decision-making process to be like, is it that this is the wrong kind of networking thing? That they actually they're all broke and they're moaning about being broke and they're just not helpable because they're stuck in that?
Yeah.
Or is it just that they're like, they just haven't seen something they really, really liked yet? And again, just test it and just see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to be finishing on time. So we have 1 minute left. So tomorrow we're going to talk about results process. So like the kind of the framework of how you make sure that they do get what they want when you charge them money and they pay, and how they actually do get what they want so that they do pay you and don't ask for refunds and don't leave. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Have a really wonderful afternoon. I will send the recordings after this. So as soon as I'm off here, as soon as it's downloaded, I'll send it over to you so you can watch the replay and ask me any questions. Give me a shout if you want to have a call. If there's something that's still like stuck in your brain that you can't get over, let's have a conversation. I'll try and unpick it for you. Okay, bye. See you later. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.